after Gandhi. All the second year students, so they have choose this subject, the non-violent movement after Gandhi. So in this regard, I will just say something that non-violent movement after Gandhi in a nutshell. Hmm. Okay. What happened? Hello. The non-violent movement after Gandhi. So I will start with a brief introduction to this subject. Hello, dear learner. It is audible. Hello. Hello.
Yes, sir, audible. Yes, sir, audible. You can
Okay.
continue.
Okay. So that is the MGP-7, and the date is the class was tomorrow. So unfortunately, I placed. So that is the 19/7/2020. So Prabhat sir, hello.
Yes, sir.
এটা কোন মানে আপনাଙ୍କର 19 তারিখ রহিব না 20 তারিখ রহিব মোর তো 20 তারিখ অলরেডি প্রিপেয়ার করে দিছি না
কোটা
এটা 19 তারিখ তো ডেট হবো
হ্যাঁ
এটা 19 তারিখ হবো মু জস্ট প্রেজেন্ট রে করে ଦେଇଥିଲି তো 20 স্যার
ହଁ ନା ଏଇଟା 19 ତାରିଖ ମୁଁ ଜାଣି କରିଦେଇଛି ସେଡ୍ୟୁଲ ରେ ଆପଣ କହିଦିଅନ୍ତୁ
ଆଚ୍ଛା ଠିକ ଅଛି so dear learner the date which has been mentioned in the MGP7 that 27/2020 instead of that you should take it that in 19/7/2020. Okay, so before we discuss about the non-violent movement after Gandhi, that unity that 1 to 5, this particular topic has been that classified into 4 blocks, but we have to cover today the unity 1 to 5, one block plus the another block 2, that is 1/5. So anyway, that the introduction to non-violent movement, just I will give some information regarding this particular MGP-7. In this particular topic introduces the learners to the subject of non-violence and the movements. Unit 1, that is post-Gandhian scenario, which gives a general account of the background to the beginning of the non-violent movements. It gives an idea of evolution of our nation in the post-independent era, when it tried to cope up with the broad task and the nation building. Similarly, we have to go through the unity 2, so which includes leadership and organizational patterns. This examines the leadership and organizational pattern that constitute non-violent movement. Similarly, unit 3, which includes dynamics, strategies, and outcome, which deals at length with the dynamics, strategies, and outcomes of such movement. Unit 4 of this particular subject, that is social and ecological issues, which examines the addition of issues that were either to not considered as mainstream in our nation. Including these block 1, another unit will be added in this topic in this subject, that non-violent movements after Gandhi, that is Unit 5, Bhudan movement. It is a social movement traces on that Bhudan. So the topic, the subject which contains the non-violent movement after Gandhi. So before we that discuss in detail about unit wise, I want to focus, I want to say a brief introduction to this subject. That how, why that non-violent movement has become an important issue, and that it has got its prominence after Gandhi. Dear learner, it is often believed that conflict must be waged in order to advance or protect freedom, justice, religion, one's own civilization or own people. Submission or compromise is the most desirable trait coming from the conflicting parties. However, uncompromising attitude mars all prospects of resolution. Most of the parties resort to violence as a means to resolve a conflict. So, एक कथा कहबार कारण होची जे the learner will get an idea about non-violent movement after Gandhi. So that is why I have collected a brief notes in this paper. First question arises: how effective can a violent means in settling the long-pending conflicts? Outcome of such methods are often destructive, for these inflict untold suffering on the innocent people, even if apparently resolved with violent means. Such results are also short-lived, as these run the risk of relapses. जो violent mood रे जो गुड़ाक settle करा जाए बा समाधान करा जाए, that means war, aggression, violence. It's that propounded by Gandhi. It was that short-lived. बहुत कम समय रहे तो ये प्रकार जो conflict resolution is not at all congenial for the human society, as expressed by Gandhi. So in this context, efficacy of non-violent struggle comes into picture. Okay. It is a technique. It is a technique of action by which the people can restrict and sever the sources of power of their rulers or oppressors and mobilize their own potentials into effective power. Non-violence is a weapon of the strong, not the weak. It has been proved in a different context that will and non-violent struggle could lead to positive outcomes. What we can take the example from the history of our own freedom struggle. तो किभଳି भाବରେ ଗାନ୍ଧୀ ଇଣ୍ଡିଆନ କେସରେ କହୁଛନ୍ତି ଯେ how non-violent movement has got wonderful result and fruit that all Indians they have realized during the freedom movement. Gandhi's that Satyagraha movement, perhaps no other leader in the history of the world has been such that resolute and consistent with the non-violent approaches which was Gandhi's. His approach retains its relevance today. That is why this course has been introduced. এটি কইবার কথা যে what is the purpose of introduction of this topic non-violent approach of the non-violent movement after Gandhi. It is an approach, it is theoretical that study. So it has its relevance what we have examined from the non-cooperation movement, civil disobedience movement, and Quit India movement. So now we'll see why it is so important. It has been practiced under constitutional democracies and against empires, foreign occupations, dictatorial systems, It has also been used to prevent as well as to promote change. Non-violent movement not only confined to political reason but also other factors that have necessitated the beginning of a movement like environmental, religious, and price hike related. The methods of non-violent movement are varied in nature, such as protest marches, picketing, boycott, civil disobedience, non-cooperation, strikes, hunger strike, and a rejection of a government position. So these are the particular techniques or methods of non-violent movement. What are practicing it today to get justice and to bear the government when government is in perverted form. The struggle have three important components, that is non-violent protest and persuasion, non-cooperation, non-violent intervention, what have been practiced in India after Gandhi. Again, I am repeating the same thing. That struggle have three important components, that is non-violent protest and persuasion. Second, non-cooperation and non-violent intervention. What have been practiced in India after Gandhiji, you might have realized. মানে ঘটনারে বা সিটিজেন্স যেତେବେଳେ হোপলেସ୍ ହେଉଛନ୍ତି ସେତେବେଳେ ଗାନ୍ଧୀଆନ ପ୍ରିନ୍ସିପଲଟାକୁ ଆଡପ୍ଟ କରାଯାଉଛି ଯେ ଲେଟ୍ ଅସ୍ ଗୋ ଫର୍ ଏ ହଙ୍ଗର ଷ୍ଟ୍ରାଇକ୍। ଗାନ୍ଧୀଙ୍କ ଫଟୋ ରଖିଦେବା, ଫୁଲମାଳ ଗୋଟେ ଦେଇଦେବା, ବସିଯିବା, ଦେଖିବା କେମିତି କିଛି ସରକାର ଶୁଣିବ। Anyhow, so Gandhiji is revered for his consistent advocacy for peace and non-violence. From what began as a struggle against racial discrimination in South Africa. जो non-violent movement से प्रथमे आरंभ कले कोठी जे साउथ अफ्रीका वर्ण वैषम्य विरोध कले। It grew manifold into satyagraha, which proved he instilled a sense of pride and honor in the heart of millions of that Indians about their non-violent approach, because it had won them independence from British by using the non-violent movement. That three important movement in national movement, that is non-cooperation, civil disobedience, and Quit India movement, example, glowing example, that how that India had won the independence from the British rule by using this force. Thus, the non-violent approach, initially used for gaining political freedom, but it is now being applied at all levels and for all unsolved issues. ବର୍ତ୍ତମାନ ଆମେ ଦେଖିବା ଯେତେବେଳେ ବ୍ରିଟିଶ କଲୋନିଆଲିଜମ ଥିଲା ସେତେବେଳେ କିଭଳି ଭାବେ ଯେ we were very much interested or our the national leaders they were using non-violence as for political freedom, but now being applied at all levels and for all unsolved issues. जोटी समाधान होने सेठी कोन ना गांधीर नॉन वायलेंस प्रिंसिपल टाको अडॉप्ट करिया चाहे एटा होछ ना तो सब क्षेत्र रे देखा जाय सब क्षेत्र रे या होछ देखा जाय hence the course non-violent movement after Gandhi is an effort to apprise the student or the learner of its efficacy, methods, dynamics involved and leadership patterns that help in making the approach a successful one. Taking the help of some case study from various sources, it enables the student or learner to know the meaning and the relevance of the subject. So, in this way, I just gave the brief ideas to what is the topic that non-violent and how it is being used and what is the relevance today and what the learners will learn from this particular subject. Within a nutshell, so I have prepared the what is non-violent movement after Gandhi, that is block 1, what I told you that unity 1, 2, 3, 4 and the 5 Bhudana movement, which is the social movement. So now we will start. Just I just collected this data only to give an idea about this particular subject, and not only the one block, the entire books contain this particular phenomenon. Okay, now we will discuss from unit 1 to 5, one after another, pointing out some case studies. Now see that unit 1, post-Gandhian scenarios. Post-Gandhian scenarios means that after Gandhi era. Okay. The unit 1, post-Gandhian scenario, what it says, and in this topic, okay. Just I was taking water. The post-Gandhian scenario in unit 1, you see, dear learner, the India after Gandhi that represents a negation of Gandhi, because the Gandhian concept of village republics that are democratic local communities committed to the ideal of the that minimization of wants was undermined by the Nehru. Undermined by the Nehru when he became the Prime Minister. You know, after independence, when Nehru became the Prime Minister of India, so he uh, that avoided the particularly the ideas which was undertaken by the Gandhi. He declared India that Christ with destiny. Christ with destiny. That means in a simple way, in a secret way, how destiny can be meant for themselves, for Indians. But the Nehruvian vision was not materialized due to problem of ethnic, social divisions, economic disparities, regional differences, and existence of that princely states. The second problem was to evolve a political system that could ensure unity of a political purpose and its realization in a concerned manner. So what are the problem? How the Nehruvian that idea could not materialize, could not succeed. The third problem pertained to social and economic reforms. India had to tackle successfully to realize the Nehruvian vision of New India. The solution of these problems was that urgent and required a strategy of development with a view to embarking upon the beneficial growth trajectory. So why the that Nehruvian idea of development could not succeed? ନେହେରୁ ଚାହିଁଥିଲେ ଯେ ଭାରତର ଇଣ୍ଡିପେଣ୍ଡେନ୍ସ ହେଲା ବେଳକୁ ଯେଉଁଭଳି ଅବସ୍ଥା ଥିଲା ଗୋଟେ ରେଡିକାଲ ଚେଞ୍ଜ ସେଠି ଦରକାର ଥିଲା ସୋସିଓ ଇକୋନୋମିକ ଆଣ୍ଡ ପଲିଟିକାଲ ସିନାରିଓରେ ପରିବର୍ତ୍ତନ ହେବାର ଥିଲା ଏବଂ ସେ ଚାହୁଁଥିଲେ ତାକୁ ୱେଷ୍ଟର୍ଣ୍ଣାଇଜ ମାଧ୍ୟମରେ ଗୋଟେ ଇଣ୍ଡଷ୍ଟ୍ରିଆଲାଇଜେସନ କରିବେ with new plan and programs. In this regard, of course, efforts have been taken for the national reconstruction for promoting a new pattern of social life and the relation and the realignment of the past and its socio-economic but institutional arrangements and the initiation of the process of radical change in the economy by introducing new thoughts without disturbing the existing equilibrium. Now, we have to see the political structure and its the working. Political structure and its working. Even the political structure, Nehruvian model le political structure जे किभଳି भाव उठे गवर्नमेंट तैयारी हो संविधान प्रणयन हला सेतिरे संविधान ले भारत पाई जहाँ जहाँ ऑब्जेक्टिव ता समस्त व्यवस्था कराला but even the political structure and its working has meant not only revolutionizing the production system but also making available goods and services to all. Both these prospectus stimulate yes, but strident demand for privileged access to scarce social resources, especially by those who have suffered poverty and deprivation. To enhance the unity and to promote economic development without alienating the subordinate levels of government. Government was tackled by that reversing the federal structure introduced by the Government of India Act 1934. Since federalism is a political arrangement, India Constitution provides for 3 tiers and the 3 lists: central state and the concurrent list, central list, state list and the concurrent list, for the division of power and authority. All the structure framework so have been adopted, made, and accordingly it was working during the time of Nehruvian period. However, the failure in that satisfying these expectations that evoke that sectional and regional loyalties that eventually lead to the formation of regional parties in the state to capture power and to take part in the decision-making process, both state and national level. Jodio, the political structure and its working, it was a high standard what Nehru that had tried to solve the India's problem after independence. But the plans and programs, the expectations, so could not materialize due to that emergence of regional parties to capture power both national level and state level in decision making process. So Nehru jaha chahuthile gote unite India integrated so eta hei parla nahi. The failure in this satisfying these expectations evoked sectional and regional loyalties that eventually lead to the formation of regional state parties that capture power, having more that levers and greater say in the decision-making process of the national level. This encourages the formation and the persistence of regional state parties, and it is a major factor in the unavoidability of formation of coalition government at the national level. Second, regarding this post-Gandhian scenario, that Nehru had tried to bring economic change. The process of social creation today needs the support of democracy and economic development to sustain irreversible and durable modernization. At the time of independence, India had inherited a backward economy rendered more depressing by the British draining Indians' wealth. Drain आकार Britishers नहीं जाइए आमर धन दौलत सब किसी जहाँ को drain theory कहते The British rule did initiate the process of economic development, but it was insufficient unless the creative entrepreneurial energy that could have introduced a self-propelling dynamism in the Indian economy. So India remained staggeringly poor at the time of independence in 1947. Despite being endowed with the rich natural resources, in view of the social backwardness reinforced by the economic stagnation, the post-chain development assumed a critical importance. To overcome backwardness, two distinct strategies, one Gandhian and a Nehruvian, were paying for supremacy. So, the economic change The economic planning was made to develop economic pursuits of the country. Nehru's vision envisaged a modern social order in which the state assumed that primary responsibility of launching the revolution of social creation. It highlighted the primacy of material life, focusing on the ever escalating level of standard of living. It accepted the importance of agriculture and small-scale village industries. He believed three fundamental requirements of Indian development: the national self-sufficiency, as how the Indian development, economic development can be possible. So he has prescribed three important requirements: national sufficiency, as number one, heavy engineering machine making industry. प्रथम importance देले जे भारी sector, heavy engineering that machine making industry. Number two, he gave emphasis for this development, scientific research institution. Scientific research institution. And number three, electric power. ये तीनटा माध्यम से चाहिए कि भारतर जो अर्थनैतिक विकास को डेवलप करेंगे एवं अर्थनैतिक क्षेत्र में परिवर्तन आनेगी जहाँ ब्रिटिशर्स कॉलोनियल एवं इंपेरियलिज्म जो माध्यम रे हम सब विलुप्त करते हैं. So after Nehru period, the nation was characterized by political instability, widespread social unrest, and marked fluctuation in the planning process as well as in development achievement, which invited food shortage, rising population, stagnant agricultural production. So which invited the failure. India had to buckle before the world bank. Even ये जो समस्या को समाधान करिया पाई हम world bank पाखरे में लगा. The deepening economic crisis combined with the weakening legitimacy of the political institutions ultimately resulted the imposition of emergency in 1975. एवं केवल अर्थनैतिक क्षेत्र नुहे राजनीतिक क्षेत्र में मध्य देखा गला जस्ट नेहरू को परे इंदिरा गांधी को समय रे 1975 मसीह देश जो एक जातीय जरूरीकालीन परिस्थिति में सामना करी. दो लिबरलाइजेशन इनिशिएटिव thereafter there though liberalization initiated on a large scale in 1991 during the time of P.V. Narasimha Rao, so which has widened the scope for a private sector to play a role in shaping the economy through liberalization माध्यम privatization, urbanization, so ता माध्यम केमिति करा जिवो. So online class रची पचरे कथा है. So what happened? The liberalization initiated a large scale in 1991 during the Prime Minister of P.V. Narasimha Rao, so which has widened the scope for private sector to play a role in shaping the economy. And equity government बेसरकारी जो माध्यम सरकारी और बेसरकारी उभय सहयोग किभली इकोनॉमी डेवलपमेंट का चिंता कराई. But several problems remain unsolved, like the average gross domestic product, and per capita income growth became lower. The failure of reforms in this sector has led to increasing poverty, slow growth in productivity, migration of villagers to the cities, and low level of nutrition and high rates of infant mortality. India's agrarian structure remains unchanged. So, here is the point. The economic change what Nehru has adopted, giving prima facie three important matters, that is heavy engineering, machine making industry, scientific research institution, electricity power. Hmm. But ଏଗୁଡ଼ାକ ଏ ଯେଉଁ ପ୍ରୋବ୍ଲେମ ପାଇଁ ଠିକ ନ୍ୟୁଟ୍ରାଲାଇଜ ହେଲା ନାହିଁ ବା ତା ସମାଧାନ ହେଇପାରିଲା ନାହିଁ। ଇକୋନୋମିକ ଡେଭଲପମେଣ୍ଟ ଯେଉଁ ହବା ପରିବର୍ତ୍ତେ ଇକୋନୋମିକ କ୍ରାଇସିସ୍ ଏଭଳି ପରିସ୍ଥିତି ସୃଷ୍ଟି କଲା ଯାହାଫଳରେ ପଲିଟିକାଲ ଇନଷ୍ଟିଟ୍ୟୁସନ ଏଗୁଡ଼ିକ ମାନେ ଏକ they faced the crisis. So जो इकोनॉमिक चेंज जो धरणर हवा कथा सेटा ही परला नाही। तापरे देखिबा डेमोक्रेसी एंड सोशल दैट रिवोल्यूशन क्षेत्र में कौन होछि। द इंडिया embarked in creating a new social order founded on the values of freedom, equality and fraternity. माने डेमोक्रेटिक सेटअप करिया पई सेठी लोक मानकर जो अधिकार सेमानकर जो वेलफेयर ये पाई कौन करा हला। द कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल प्रोविजन सेटिंग द गोल फॉर सोशल रिवोल्यूशन social revolution like कौन आसला से सोशल रिवोल्यूशन में डायरेक्ट डीपीएसपी डायरेक्टरी प्रिंसिपल्स ऑफ स्टेट पॉलिसी फंडामेंटल राइट्स द वेरियस आर्टिकल्स that are protecting minority rights, especially scheduled caste and scheduled tribes and other backward classes, have now been in operation for the last 7 decades. But the programs of social justice have not made a significant that in the structure. In the structure of exclusion or its that sharpness. There is a gap between the deprived and the general population. Discrimination in employment, wages, credit, etc. is still widespread. Thus, the differences in economic status among several social groups still that persists. तेणु जो कौन है जो वर्किंग कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन जो होता सोशियो इकोनॉमिक कल्चरल एनवायरनमेंट डेवलपमेंट करने किंतु ठीक भाव में हो पारा ना सेटा फेल्योर है। तेणु बर्तमान देखा कहीं प्रकार सब घटना सब it is at this that backdrops as mentioned in the above discussion that the various movements across which tried to address the concern of people at large, the dissatisfaction of the people with the lack of governance and governmental related project in the political, economic and social areas has given way to mass movements. In the political arena, you see that instability and corrupt practices led to movement like total revolution. Similarly, in the economic field, It saw a movement like Bhudan, land reforms, farmers movement, seeking to the redress their long-term grievances. All these movement taking the cue from the examples of the history. We are now witness the movement that are addressing issues as right as civil and democratic rights. Rights of tribals, Adivasis, women rights, rights for conserving natural resources like water and land. Most of these movements have been rather successful in achieving their objectives. Similarly, the organizational abilities, dynamics, and strategy have acquired new dimensions and presented the leadership with enormous challenges to sustain the momentum of the movement. India has had an advantage of closely witnessing the Gandhian method and the principles in routine. Therefore, it is not surprising that many of these movements provided exemplary models to others across the world to seek justice. It is one legacy of Gandhi that refuses to fade away in this country. Enormous, numerous contradictions. So, with this, I will conclude this topic, the particularly post-Gandhian scenario, that from the above analysis, it can be concluded that India has tried with destiny, which was the slogan of Nehru, not only seen that forsaking of Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi's vision of the resurgent India, but also brought forth a pattern of development that has helped to tackle some of the basic problems that have plagued Indian society for centuries. ଚେଷ୍ଟା କରିଥିଲେ କିନ୍ତୁ ଏଇ ଯୋଉ ପ୍ରୋବ୍ଲେମ ପାଇଁ ସେଗୁଡାକ ମେଟେରିଆଲ ହେଇପାରିଲା ନାହିଁ ଠିକ ହେଇପାରିଲା କଣ ନା lack of education condemns a large section of the population to unemployment and underemployment, reinforcing acute poverty. Health and nutrition have not yet received the attention they deserve. ଯୋଉଭଳି ଭାବରେ ସେମାନେ ପାଇବା କଥା ହେଲ୍ଥ ନ୍ୟୁଟ୍ରିସନ୍ ବର୍ତ୍ତମାନ ପର୍ଯ୍ୟନ୍ତ ମଧ୍ୟ ପାଇପାରିନାହାନ୍ତି ଚେଷ୍ଟା ଚାଲିଛି. The subject of disproportionate development points to a serious gap between promise and performance. The promise and performance. In spite of plan, ଯାହା ସେମାନେ ପ୍ରମିସ୍ କରିଥିଲେ সেই ଅନୁସାରେ performance କରିପାରିଲେ ନାହିଁ. In spite of plan and programs that adopted by the single party dominance that Congress, India is severely lagging in poverty eradication, in providing food to all, in reducing child mortality rate, CMR, child mortality rate and mother mortality rate. ଶିଶୁ ମୃତ୍ୟୁ ହାର ଏବଂ ମାତୃ ମୃତ୍ୟୁ ହାର ମଧ୍ୟ ଏପର୍ଯ୍ୟନ୍ତ କମିପାରିବ. And that fighting infectious disease and fighting infectious disease ତା ପାଇଁ ମଧ୍ୟ ସମ୍ପୂର୍ଣ୍ଣ ଭାବରେ ଯୁଦ୍ଧ କରିପାରିବ. This backdrop serves as a catalyst for many movements that have been concentrating on issues of social justice and equality. So now we will start the Unit 2. The Unit 2, the topic includes leadership and organizational pattern. ଗାନ୍ଧୀଙ୍କ ପରେ ଏବଂ ଗାନ୍ଧୀଙ୍କ ସମୟରେ ଯେ ଲିଡରସିପ ପ୍ୟାଟର୍ନ କିଭଳି ଭାବରେ ଥିଲା ଏବଂ ଏଥିରେ ଆମେ ବିଶେଷ ପ୍ରାଧାନ୍ୟ ଦେବା ଯେ କିଭଳି ଯେ ଲିଡରସିପ ଅର୍ଗାନାଇଜେସନ ପ୍ୟାଟର୍ନ କିଭଳି ଭାବରେ ପିସ୍ ମୁଭମେଣ୍ଟ ପାଇଁ ଥିଲା ଆଉ ଗାନ୍ଧୀ एजेंडा फॉर पीस मूवमेंट किभଳି ଭାବରେ ଥିଲା କଣ କଣ ଏଜେଣ୍ଡା ଥିଲା ଗାନ୍ଧୀର ମୁଭମେଣ୍ଟ ଏବଂ ଗାନ୍ଧୀ को ପାଇଁ କୋଉମାନେ ଲେଫ୍ଟନାଣ୍ଟ ଥିଲେ ଯୋଉମାନେ ଶାନ୍ତି ଆନ୍ଦୋଳନରେ ଭାଗ ନେଇଥିଲେ ଏ ଉପରେ ଆମେ ଗୁରୁତ୍ୱ ଦେବା so let us see the leadership and organizational patterns in this particular that subject non-violent movement after Gandhi. What says the whole history has been a ceaseless dialectics between forces of war and those of peace, between the dragons and the angels, between the realist and the idealist. The modern peace movements, the roots of which go back to the several centuries in history, have been unique and more than one day. But its most critical uniqueness lies in the fact that it aims at and a struggle for global peace. To fight for global peace is not easy task and even limited success deserve our gratitude. But worse than failure have been the illusion which the organizational structure and the leaders of the peace movement have entertained. ତେଣୁ ଉପଯୁକ୍ତ ସଂଗଠନ ଉପଯୁକ୍ତ ନେତୃତ୍ୱ ଯଦି ନ ହେବ ତାହେଲେ ମୁଭମେଣ୍ଟ କେବେ ସକ୍ସେସ୍ ହେଇପାରିବନି what the Gandhi realized. The role of leadership and organizational pattern of peace movement deserve careful analysis for at least two important reasons. दुईटी कारण ପାଇଁ ये जो organizational pattern of peace movement को विश्लेषण करिवार आवश्यकता रही कारण एक that is peace movement can become a very powerful force if its purpose are well understood, is led by committed leaders. Above all, it is a people's movement carried on a sustainable basis. Number two, if the movements keep a narrow focus, remains regional, and is led by the people who are otherwise motivated but are consciously or unconsciously but believers major related issues. So finally, if it is that infiltrated by social agents of zonal powers, then the movement can become the counterproductive. But it is true that without a proper organizational pattern, peace movement will always lack that coherence, and without masses of people participating in it, the movement can be constrained by the interest of one or the other section of people. Let us see the peace movement in India. What it says, the peace movement in India are still in their. The peace movement in India are still in their infancy. Why? They must travel a long way before they become part of the political life of the country. They lack organizational structure because of their intellectual fragmentation. ସେ ଗୋଟେ ଦଳ କଲା ଇଏ ଗୋଟେ ଦଳ କଲା ତାର ଚିନ୍ତାଧାରା ଅଲଗା due to intellectual fragmentation and isolated peace. Peace for common people of India includes far more than the absence of war. ସାଧାରଣ ଲୋକଙ୍କ ପାଇଁ କ'ଣ? Peace for common people of India includes far more than the absence of war. To be that meaningful in their everyday life, peace must mean a decent livelihood, freedom from that oppression, access to resources for survival, cultural autonomy, and freedom from violence by the state as well as the powers. None of the movements focuses on all those issues of the general people, but they are realizing that these issues are important. So, peace movement in India is just a overview what Gandhi realized. Gandhi and agenda for peace movement. Peace movement ପାଇଁ କ'ଣ କ'ଣ ଏଜେଣ୍ଡା ସେ ପ୍ରସ୍ତୁତ କରୁଛନ୍ତି ଆମେ ଦୁଇଟା ଡାଇମେନ୍ସନରେ ଆମେ କହିବା ଯେ ଗାନ୍ଧୀ with his full faith and extraordinary commitment to non-violent and truth the pottery of peace everywhere. এই দুইটি non-violent এবং truth ପାଇଁ ସାରା ବିଶ୍ୱରେ ସେ ହେଉଛନ୍ତି। So he was of opinion real peace is impossible except greater scientific precision, greater travel of the soul, greater essence, and greater resources than required for the invention and consolidation of means of slaughter. It cannot be that attained by a mere master rule signed by million of men. खाली दस्खत करके बच्चे लोग को peace में तैयारी करते लोग होगा. So it cannot be attained by a mere master rule signed by the million of mankind during peace. The Gandhian agenda requires non-violent and non-cooperative that movement, both spontaneous and institutional. All those who are concerned with issues of peace, poverty, ecology, so Gandhian agenda for peace movement which called जो माने एथिरे आगे आसीबे नॉन वायलेंट नॉन कोऑपरेशन याको माध्यम करी आसीबे एवं ताहा स्वतंत्र भाव रे ताको सृष्टि होतबे एवं इंस्टीट्यूशनल हेबा दरकार एवं जो माने कंसर्न हितिबे बाबद रे जे शांति दारिद्रता इकोलॉजिकल सिस्टम ह्यूमन ये सब क्षेत्र रे किबोली भाव रे होचाने non-violent movement rate to समाधान करते हैं. Anyway, the Gandhian that lieutenants engaged in peace. Gandhian ये जो word use कले कहीं की ये गांधी that lieutenant that military word. Now Gandhian lieutenant agenda in peace. While the followers oriented approach to the analysis and understanding of leadership may be fruitful in any study of leadership. It is of the special interest and it is of the special interest in relation to Gandhi. Gandhi was strongly that in tune to the nine inner states and the potentialities of his thoughts. Gandhi always giving emphasis for his religious followers and political leaders. ତାଙ୍କ ଧାର୍ମିକ ଯୋଉ ଶିଷ୍ୟ ଏବଂ ରାଜନୈତିକ ସେନାପତି. So his capacity and skill were especially important in connection with the dwellers in the ashrams, which represent the institutionalization of his spiritual teaching and leadership. এইଥିପାଇଁ ତାଙ୍କୁ Gandhi's relationship to his mass followers that represents one type of that followership in the form of communication appropriate. This was the Gandhian lieutenant. କେବଳ ଯେଉଁମାନେ ଗାନ୍ଧୀଙ୍କର ଆଦର୍ଶ ଗାନ୍ଧୀଙ୍କର ନୀତି ଏବଂ ତାଙ୍କର ସ୍ପିରିଚୁଆଲ ଆଇଡିଆ ସହିତ ଏକମତ ସେଇମାନଙ୍କୁ ସେ ହେଉଛି ଯେ ଗାନ୍ଧିଆନ ଲିଟମେଣ୍ଟସ ବୋଲି କହିଥିଲେ ଏବଂ ଯେଉଁମାନେ କି ଗାନ୍ଧୀଙ୍କ ଯେଉଁ ମୃତ୍ୟୁ ପରେ ସେମାନେ ମଧ୍ୟ ଗାନ୍ଧିଆନ ଫିଲୋସଫି ଏବଂ ନନଭାୟୋଲେଣ୍ଟ ମୁଭମେଣ୍ଟକୁ କିଭଳି ଭାବରେ ବଞ୍ଚେଇ ରଖିଛନ୍ତି ଦେଖିବା ନେକ୍ସଟ. The post-Gandhian leadership. The post-Gandhian leadership were taken by the important thinker of this school like Vinoba Bhave, that J.C. Kumarappa, and Kaka Kalekar, Dada, that Dharmadhikari, Dhirendra Majumdar, Jayaprakash Narayan, এবং J.B. Kripali. All of them except Jayaprakash Narayan had been closely associated with Gandhi. କାରଣ ଜୟପ୍ରକାଶ ନାରାୟଣ ଟିକେ କମ୍ୟୁନିଷ୍ଟ ମାଇଣ୍ଡେଡ୍ ଥିଲେ. With Gandhi in his constructive work. What happened after the death of Gandhi is that their thoughts came into greater prominence due to the movement, and the growth of the movements led to their further that elucidation and development. Besides these prominent persons, there are several others who deserve study as they led some this movement. ତେଣୁ ଏଇମାନଙ୍କ ଛଡ଼ା ଆଉ ଅନେକ ଫଲୋଅର୍ସ ମଧ୍ୟ ଯେଉଁ ନେତୃତ୍ୱ ନେଇଥିଲେ ଗାନ୍ଧିଆନ ଥଟ୍ ଗାନ୍ଧିଆନ ଦଟ୍ ୱେ ଅଫ୍ ମୁଭମେଣ୍ଟ କିଭଳି ଭାବରେ ସେମାନେ ପ୍ରଚାର ପ୍ରସାର କଲେ. ନେକ୍ସଟ ପୋଷ୍ଟ ଗାନ୍ଧିଆନ ଦଟ୍ ଅର୍ଗାନାଇଜେସନାଲ ପ୍ୟାଟର୍ନସ୍. ଅର୍ଗାନାଇଜେସନାଲ ପ୍ୟାଟର୍ନ କିଭଳି ଭାବରେ ଥିଲା ଯୋଉ ଗାନ୍ଧୀଙ୍କ ପରେ, and it is to be the study, it is under the discussion. So anyway, in order of organizational patterns, there are two broad categories into which the peace movement in India may be classified. এটা আমি পড়ুଛନ୍ତି leadership and organizational pattern. ତେଣୁ organizational pattern କିଭଳି ଭାବରେ ଗାନ୍ଧୀଙ୍କର ଆଇଡିଆରେ ଥିଲା ଏବଂ ପୋଷ୍ଟ ଗାନ୍ଧିଆନ ଅର୍ଗାନାଇଜେସନାଲ ପ୍ୟାଟର୍ନ କିଭଳି ଭାବରେ ଏଚିଭମେଣ୍ଟ କରାଯାଇପାରିଛି ଏବଂ କୋଉ ଦୁଇଟା ଯୋଉ କାରଣ ପାଇଁ ସେ ସକ୍ସେସ୍ ହେଇଛନ୍ତି ବର୍ତ୍ତମାନ. That peace movement in India may be classified into two different categories. First, the non-violent approach towards an alternative notion of peace and development belonging to the Gandhian school of action. A clear example of this structure can be seen in the Gandhian ashrams that are spread widely throughout the country. Bartman the Gandhian ashram church. They remain not only the main source of inspiration for the non-violent movement, but also are themselves engaged in confronting the basic problems of security and survival of the people. ବର୍ତ୍ତମାନ ମଧ୍ୟ ସେ ଗାନ୍ଧିଆନ ଆଶ୍ରମ ଏବଂ ଗାନ୍ଧିଆନ ଆଶ୍ରମର ଯେଉଁମାନେ ଡିଭୋଟି ଲୋକମାନଙ୍କର ସୁରକ୍ଷା ଲୋକମାନେ କିଭଳି ଭାବରେ ତିଷ୍ଠି ରହିବେ ସେ ପାଇଁ ମଧ୍ୟ କାର୍ଯ୍ୟ କରୁଛନ୍ତି। ଇଏ ହେଉଛି ପ୍ରଥମ ଯେଉଁ approach, the non-violent approach towards the alternative notion of peace and development. So second school of thought, the second category comprises a full range of autonomous peace initiatives. Autonomous in other organizations. And these movements organized by student group, women organization, religious bodies, environmental activists, educationists, and civil rights workers, and concerned journalists. ଏମାନେ ହେଉଛନ୍ତି ସେମାନେ ମଧ୍ୟ ଅନୁଭବ କରୁଛନ୍ତି ଏ ପ୍ରକାର ଯୋଉ ଗାନ୍ଧିଆନ ଯୋଉ ନନଭାୟୋଲେନ୍ସ ଆପ୍ରୋଚ୍ ଜଷ୍ଟିଫିକେସନ ଅଛି ଏକର୍ଡିଂଲି ତାଙ୍କ ଏରିଆରେ ସେମାନେ ମଧ୍ୟ ସ୍ପ୍ରେଡ୍ କରିପାରିବେ। So these development undoubtedly help us to build up a perspective of the Indian peace movement. This development undoubtedly help us build up a perspective of the Indian peace movement itself. But this perspective still lacks clarity because of its scattered concept. In recognition of the size and the diversity of this content, the happenings concerned with issues of peace and survival are to be taking place in isolation. विशालकाय राष्ट्र विभिन्न प्रकार जाति धर्म वर्ण भाषा भित्तिक लोक जोथिपाई विभिन्न प्रकार घटना पाई शांति और सौहार्द्य विलंबित। So this was the unit 2. Unit 3 we proceed faster because time will be too late. Dynamics, strategies, and outcomes. In this topic, we see what is important. Dynamics, that means some changes. Strategies, how the technique were used by Gandhi, and by dynamism and strategies, what result come out? That has been depicted in this topic. So, Gandhi, that has been the most inspiring icon. That means the example. That is the icon means the extraordinary quality in the history of extraordinary man in the history of non-violent movement. His arrival marked that watershed in the development of ideas and strategies of non-violence. 1915 they ଆସିଛନ୍ତି South Africa to get liberate the mother country and a society from different evils. Gandhi adopted various strategies. समाजर विभिन्न प्रकार कुत्सित मंद व्यवस्था को जो किभଳି भावे भारत तथा भारतीय समाज को मुक्त करिवे सेति विभिन्न कौशल से अवलंबन। Gandhi adopted various strategies to create effective power for achieving long-term collective goals. Long-term collective सामूहिक लक्ष्य। So Gandhi proved to be an able organizer and a profound social visionary. His theory of a principle non-violent action, which he called Satyagraha, expanded non-violence beyond its that, past, understanding limited to personal life by relating it with larger political groups. Non-violent movements as realistic alternatives to armed struggle and military conflict have been hmm, a universal subject in the modern history. All classes of the people, including political, social system, and under different forms of government, have posed greater challenges to the state's authority and its legitimacy to non-violence. এটা ଆମେ ସମସ୍ତେ ଜାଣିଛୁ। ତେଣୁ ନନ୍-ଭାୟୋଲେଣ୍ଟ ମୁଭମେଣ୍ଟ ଗାନ୍ଧୀଙ୍କ ପରେ କିଭଳି ଭାବରେ ଯୋଉ ତାର ପ୍ରମିନେଣ୍ଟ ବା କିଭଳି ଭାବରେ ଏହା ଗୁରୁତ୍ୱ ବହନ କରେ ବର୍ତ୍ତମାନ ଦେଖିବା। These movements sought to apply the ideas of Gandhi to the specific socio-political and economic circumstances of the society. There is much greater awareness of non-violent today through networking, media coverage, scholarly writings. This has led to the development and systematization of knowledge concerning non-violent campaign strategies and their guidance. ତେଣୁ ନିଶ୍ଚିତ ଭାବରେ ଗାନ୍ଧୀଙ୍କ ପରେ ଏହାର ଯେଉଁ ପ୍ରାସଙ୍ଗିକତା ବଢ଼ିଛି ଏବଂ ଏପର୍ଯ୍ୟନ୍ତ ମଧ୍ୟ ତାହା ଚାଲିଛି। So in this topic we will give importance the key features, strategies and dynamics of non-violent movement after Gandhi, the strategies of non-violent movement, its methods and types, the areas of success and failure of non-violent movement after Gandhi. कौन तार बेसिक फीचर या स्ट्राटेजी कौन एवं मेथड को प्रकार मेथड की पुणी भावरे non-violent movement ता केते प्रकार चलथिला एवं the areas of success and the failure of non-violent movement after गांधी को परे यह केते दूर जो सफल हेछि बा विफल हेछि ताहा देखि तेबे so far as the features of non-violent movement is concerned, I want to say the non-violent action is not simply any act or method that is not violent. Going beyond the conventional and institutionalized methods of political communication and of going conflict, such as voting, discussion, negotiation, or the lobbying, non-violent movements that employ a number of active and dynamic strategies of that reciting oppression and injustice without plunging violence in the form of physical injury or destruction of other properties. And bodily injury किंबा कौन property नष्ट करिबा ए सब चाहे नहीं. It is the that first feature of non-violence. Gandhi therefore objected to the description of non-violent struggle as a passive resistance, a phrase borrowed from the writings of thinkers like Leo Tolstoy. Non-violent movement reject that cowardice and do not shy away from struggle against injustice. The injustice বিরুদ্ধে স্বরোত্তোলন ন করিব বা লজ্জারে সে পড়ে যাব ତାକୁ କେବେ କୁହାଯିବନି ଯେ ହେଉଛନ୍ତି ପ୍ରକୃତ ସତ୍ୟାଗ୍ରହୀ। They are essentially mass movement, even as in some extent symbolic individual action might become the key method of action. There are means of weighing conflict activity by discovering and mobilizing the moral power of the people. They keep the state out and attempt to bring about the changes from people. ମାନେ ପୁରା ନିମ୍ନ ସ୍ତରରୁ କେମିତି ପରିବର୍ତ୍ତନ ଅଣାଯାଇ ପାରିବ ଏ କଥା ହେଉଛି ଚେଞ୍ଜ ଅଫ୍ ମେଣ୍ଟାଲିଟି ମାନସିକ ସ୍ତରରେ କେମିତି ପରିବର୍ତ୍ତନ ହେବ values is regarded more important than any imposed or legal reform in India. So, ଅହିଂସା ଆନ୍ଦୋଳନର ଇଏ ହେଉଛି ଆଉ ଗୋଟେ ଫିଚର କ'ଣ ନା ଫୋର୍ସ ପ୍ରେସରାଇଜ କରିକି ଗୋଟେ ଇମ୍ପୋଜ୍ଡ କୌଣସି କ୍ଷେତ୍ରରେ ନ କରାଯିବ ୱେଦର ଟୁ ଚେଞ୍ଜ ଅଫ୍ ମେଣ୍ଟାଲିଟି ନହେଲେ ଗାନ୍ଧୀ ବହୁତ ଆଗରୁ ଯେଉଁ ଇଣ୍ଡିଆକୁ ଯେଉଁ ଫ୍ରିଡମ୍ ଆଣିପାରିଥାନ୍ତେ। ତେଣୁ ସେ ଯେଉଁ ମାନସିକ ସ୍ତରରେ ପରିବର୍ତ୍ତନ କରି ବ୍ରିଟିଶ ସରକାର ଆମକୁ କିଭଳି ସ୍ୱାଧୀନତା ଦେବେ ଏଇ ଯେଉଁ ନନ୍-ଭାୟୋଲେଣ୍ଟ ଯେଉଁ ଆଇଡିଆ So non-violent struggles are most exacting as they require willingness on the part of their adherent to take risk and bear great personal sufferings without violent attacks. ଅହିଂସା ମାଧ୍ୟମରେ କୌଣସି ଶାସନିକ ପ୍ରକ୍ରିୟା ନ କରି ଧୈର୍ଯ୍ୟର ସହିତ ଯେଉଁ କାର୍ଯ୍ୟ କରିବାକୁ The non-violent methods are preferred in movement because they involve challenge to the legitimacy of the action of the state. Legitimacy of the action of ଯାହା ପ୍ରକୃତରେ ବୈଧ କାର୍ଯ୍ୟକୁ ସେ କରୁଛି which is more effective than the constitutional or the legal techniques. Besides, non-violent action usually wins more support than does violence. ହିଂସାଠାରୁ ଅହିଂସାକୁ ଅଧିକ ପ୍ରାଧାନ୍ୟ ଦେଉଛି। When violence is urged against non-violent protest, it is widely seen as unjust and leads to an expansion of support base of government. Non-violence can generate support people even from the adversaries ଦୁଃଖ ସମୟରେ ମଧ୍ୟ ଯଦି non-violence ଯେଉଁ ମେଥଡକୁ ୟୁଜ୍ କରାଯାଇଥିବ ସେତେବେଳେ ଲୋକମାନଙ୍କର ସମର୍ଥନ ମଧ୍ୟ and who might shift their loyalty moved by the suffering undergone by involvement protest. Non-violent movement are also more participatory in character as they make it possible for children, elderly people, women and persons with disabilities to contribute to the many forms of involvement action. Greater participation results into greater empowerment. ଯେଉଁଥିରେ ଅଧିକ ଲୋକ ଯେଉଁ ସହଯୋଗ କରିବେ ଆମେ ଅଧିକ ରେଜଲ୍ଟ ପାଇବା। So these are the very features of non-violent movement. What Gandhi had prescribed. And not only this, non-violent movement can be applied to oppose both direct and physical violence as well as structural violence. So anyway, next we will see the types of non-violent movement. The types of non-violent movement. Non-violent is both a philosophy and a strategy that strives to attain change without the use of on the principal ground and movement that remain non-violent due to anyway, non-violence that is grounded in religious, spiritual, and moral injections against violence. So the types of non-violent movement, we'll see the principled non-violent movements, strategic non-violent movements. So here, non-violent movement, a non-violent movement may have one of these two dimensions as its dominant character. One, as these dimensions are not exclusive, they may be generally present in all non-violent movement channels. The principle and pragmatic arguments on non-violence should therefore be treated as complementary. For example, civil disobedience movement campaigns during the India's independence movement or during the American civil rights movement both advanced the level of truth and brought about a change in the balance of power versus the climate. The কিভাবে ভাবে non-violent movement পরিবর্তন করতে আনতে। So, what sort of principle adopted in non-violent movement? See, the practitioner explicitly affirm their intent to resolve conflict without use of violence, and adopt precaution to carry out that intention. কিন্তু violent জমা করবে না, non-violent টাକୁ even result তো বন্ধটাକୁ কিভাবে ভাবে যে peaceable ওয়েରେ ସମାଧାନ କରାଯାଇପାରେ ସେଥିପାଇଁ ସେମାନେ ବହୁତ ସତର୍କ ହୋଇଛନ୍ତି। In the Gandhian sense, non-violent movement cannot be weighed for purely selfish or arbitrary ends. As such, ends would help to unleash the spiritual energies of the people. The followers of non-violence need to transcend self-interest in order to become effective. It is committed to the values of love, self-sacrifice, human dignity. These are the some principles of the subcategories. Those who come forward for non-violent movement, they should be prepared to suffer, even দুঃখ কষ্ট পাইবে সেদিকে যে প্রস্তুত হয়ে কথা বলে। Then the inflict suffering on others. They should practice the non-violence by conviction rather than the experience. Adoption of non-violence by them is a result not of the lack of the availability of other alternatives, but the abhorrence of the dehumanizing and the brutalizing effects of the violence. So, the strategies, what strategies can be undertaken in the that non-violent कौन कौन सब कौशल सब अवलंबन कराए এবং এই ক্ষেত্রে ডক্টর গান্ধী কোন করছেন এবং আফটার গান্ধী কিভাবে ভাবে এটা নিয়ে যাচ্ছে। So, the strategies adopted by Mahatma Gandhi that so the vast majority of the partition and the involvement struggles have used non-violence without deep commitment to some moral and spirituality. According to the strategic non-violence perspective, in the most recent cases of non-violent resistance, the protagonists were not motivated by moral values of law and the self-sacrifice. Instead of that, they selected non-violent strategy in order to achieve results with the means that are more effective and less costly as compared to the violent means. जो गांधी जो कौशल कथा कहते जी that means he has given importance on the means, that means non-violent means, not the violent means. So if the means will be pure, then end can be reached, end can be achieved. Now that to see the methods of non-violent movement. What sort of methods of non-violent? The methods of non-violent movement are of the critical for their success as the condition under which they operate. Once movement identifies its strategic objective, it must identify effective non-violent methods in order to increase the number of support and their participation. So the non-violent movement use a number of methods to carry out the campaigns. Campaign. The methods are more useful in achieving the change than the others. Non-violent methods can be the act of omission, that is, the participant refuse to perform acts they usually perform or that are required by law or the acts of commission. So non-violent strategies includes also multitude of specific methods that can be grouped into three main classes. Trinity group duty or methods of protest. Methods of protest. प्रथमे विरोध करिया, not violently, that is non-violently, and persuasion, तापर प्रवर्तेगा ताको. The methods of non-cooperation, तापर पर्यत हैला ताको non-cooperation आमे करिया, असहयोग करिया, and methods of that intervention, and the methods of intervention. So the gradually the methods of non-violent will apply. So methods of protest and persuasion. The methods and persuasion, that means they protest in any matter through violence is not accepted by Canada. Protest actions such as public speeches, petitions, that leaflets, the non-violent methods of protest and persuasion includes what? The protest action such as public speech. सर्वसाधारण लोग अगर स्पीच दिया प्रेस रिलीज, रैलीज करिवे, मार्चेस, पिकेटिंग, वेयरिंग ऑफ सिंबल्स, जेମିତି ଆମେ वेयरिंग ऑफ सिंबल्स ଆମେ जो कला फिता बांधिकी ଆମେ ड्यूटी करछन तो विरोध करछन, डिस्प्ले ऑफ फ्लैग्स, कला पताका प्रदर्शन करा जाଉଛି, then other forms of action, and then the symbolic in nature, they might not directly cause the desired changes. So second, the methods of non-cooperation. The method non-violent, the methods of non-cooperation. This method consists of different forms of social, economic, and political non-cooperation, such as social ostracism, protest immigration. That यदि सत्याग्रही को कथा के न मानले बा ताको घर लोक भी एभली किछि न मानले जो ताको एक्सेप्ट न करे समान हिजारत नहीं. So it hijarat means that hijarat means the satyagrahi when he that fed away after the several that efforts to make understand to his family members or his belongings, so say মানে ঘর ছাড়ি भी पड़े that away from the home, that is called hijab. Civil disobedience towards illegitimate laws, সেতবে কোন black law will be that implemented by the government. So the 1919 that Rollout Act was the black law that which was also opposed by India. So another method is boycott of elections and legislative bodies, withdrawal from formal educational institutions, strike, work shutdown, the work slowdown, the blocking of the lines of communication रेल लाइन की माने अवरोध करवा विड्रॉल ऑफ मनी फ्रॉम बैंक अकाउंट्स जे बैंक क्षेत्र में यदि कोन प्रॉब्लम होला हम सब बैंक खाता रुसले दिए से बैंक में चलिए refusal to pay rent and interest. So these are the methods of non-cooperation. That means non-cooperation to the authority. Because some authority that has taken some that unauthenticated things or any illegal deeds. So in this case, by the black law, the law which will be that go against the public. ବର୍ତ୍ତମାନ ସେ ଆମେ ହଉଛି ଦେଖୁଛନ୍ତି ବିଭିନ୍ନ କ୍ଷେତ୍ରରେ ଯେତେବେଳେ ଆମେ ପାରୁନାହାନ୍ତି ସେତେବେଳେ ମେଥଡ୍ସ ଅଫ ନନ୍ କୋପରେସନ ଏଇଟା ଯୋଉ ବୟକଟ୍ ଆମେ ଯୋଉ ବ୍ଲକିଂ ଅଫ ରୁଟ୍ସ ଏଗୁଡାକ ଆମେ କରୁଛୁ so methods of that intervention methods of intervention methods such as that sit-ins blocking of routes physical obstructions overloading of facilities self-inflicted suffering such as fast hunger strike एवढा जो method है intervention कौन से तो निर्दिष्ट जो कार्य उपरे हम हस्तक्षेप करिया वर्तमान देखा जाओ जो कोविड-19 ला जो पैंडेमिक कोविड-19 पर वर्तमान अनेक इंडस्ट्री वर्तमान बंद ही से सिटी इंडस्ट्री रे जो लेबर मान को एवं अन्य ऑफिसर सु छुट्टी करा सेटी मेथड्स ऑफ इंटरवेंशन इट नॉन जो नॉन वायलेंट जो उपाय रे नॉन वायलेंट मूवमेंट रे किबोली भाव रे स्टेप ले गयो ना जो हंगर स्ट्राइक फास्टिंग एवं एस्टैब्लिशिंग ऑफ द पैरेलल इंस्टीट्यूशन एंड that alternative practices underground educational institution occupational of building collective act civil disobedience deliberate impunity directly disrupt the ability of the advocate to function तांको कार्य को कोन करा जबो ना हमें डिफंक्ट करा so these are the methods of the non-violent movements. Next we will see that the dynamics of non-violent movements. When conventional political and legal channels of securing justice appear blocked and yet people are unwilling to abandon their goal, the typical structural conditions leading to the non-violent struggle arise. Again, I am telling the conventional political and legal channels of securing justice appear blocked, and yet people are unwilling to abandon their goals. The typical structural condition leading to the non-violent struggle arise. The non-violent actions sustain as they have many advantages over violence is a means of struggle. Compared to violence, non-violent actions tend to invoke a less cruel and relational from the state forces. The use of violence by British colonial rulers against the non-violent Indian freedom fighters was much smaller as compared to the violence used against the nationalistic in other colonies. Besides, the application of non-violence keeps that adversarial camp somewhat disunited, whereas use of violence tends to strengthen its unity and gives legitimacy. ଏଠି କହିବା କଥା ଯେ ଆମେ ପରିବର୍ତ୍ତନ ଚାହୁଁ କିନ୍ତୁ ଯଦି ମୁହାଁମୁହିଁ ଆମେ ଯୁଦ୍ଧ କରିବା ତାହେଲେ ଆମେପାରିବା ନାହିଁ ତେଣୁ ଆମେ କ'ଣ କରିବା ନା ଯଦି ଭାଉଲେନ୍ସ ଷ୍ଟ୍ରେନ୍ଥରେ ଆମେ କରିବା କ'ଣ ହେବ ନା ସେଟା ଅପୋନେଣ୍ଟର ଷ୍ଟ୍ରେନ୍ଥ ଅଧିକା ହେବ କାରଣ ତାଙ୍କ ପାଖରେ ଫୋର୍ସ ଅଛନ୍ତି ତାଙ୍କ ପାଖରେ ବନ୍ଧୁକ ଅଛି ତାଙ୍କ ପାଖରେ ମେକାନିଜମ ଅଛି ପାୱାର ଅଛି so we cannot proceed. So dynamic of non-violent movement or that mechanism of non-violent change, accommodation, coercion, disintegration. These are the dynamics of non-violent movement. So from the above discussion, now we see that what sort of result, hmm, what sort of result or outcomes we just realized. Nonviolent action in India and abroad have had a mixed record during the last the 7 decades. However, there is ample historical evidence that establishes non-violent movement can be an effective method of social transformation under certain conditions. ଅନେକ କ୍ଷେତ୍ରରେ ଆମେ ଦେଖିଛନ୍ତି non-violent method ଆମକୁ success ଦେଇଛି and they have helped in the toppling the directives and establishing democratic regimes. At another level, they have advanced the people freedom and the rights of the marginalized groups. Armed liberation struggle against a powerful state have met with more success in the recent times. The anti-apartheid movement in South Africa made much more progress after the armed struggle was subordinated to non-violent action. Anti-apartheid South Africa रे जेतो हैला तांकर फोर्स मध्ये पूरी सबोर्डिनेट हैला एभली भाबरे non-violent movement सत्याग्रही माने एभली भाबरे कार्य कले जोथि पे तांकर जो गवर्नमेंट फोर्स से मध्ये सबोर्डिनेट हैला similarly in East Timor, non-violent protests in urban areas were more effective in winning that international support than the guerrilla warfare in the interior areas. Of course, instances of failure. So many case studies are there. The Gujarat satyagraha ଏବଂ ଯେତେବେଳେ ନୀଳ ଚାଷ ମାନଙ୍କୁ ଯେତେବେଳେ ସେଠି ବନ୍ଦ କରିଦିଆହେଲା ସେଠି ସତ୍ୟାଗ୍ରହ non-violent ମାଧ୍ୟମରେ କେମିତି ମାନେ win କରାଯାଇଥିଲା ଏବଂ violent revolution and campaign have also achieved very little success in terms of establishing democratic, just and exploitation-free society in spite of incurring a great loss of life and property. So they allow the outcomes of result, the success that they get. Of course, instances of the failure of non-violent movement also exist. Kete kshetra anu madhya kon korchandi na failure hetundi, such as the repression of the pro-democracy movement at that particularly Tiananmen in China in 1989, and the failure of the movement led by that Aung San Suu Kyi to overthrow military regime in Myanmar. Seven, Tibetans' non-violent struggle for self determination has not won fruits despite the decades of activism. One can also argue that even as the American civil rights resulted into legal changes to remove discrimination against the African and American. Here, ଆମେ ଏଠି କହିବା ଗୋଟେ କଥା ଯୋଉ COVID-19 ସମୟରେ ତମେ ଜାଣିଥିବ ଆମେରିକାର ଜଣେ ପୋଲିସ କେମିତି ଗୋଟେ ଯୋଉ ମାନେ ବ୍ଲାକ୍ କମ୍ପ୍ଲେକ୍ସ ଲୋକକୁ କିଭଳି ଭାବରେ ସେ ହ୍ୟୁମିଲେଟ୍ କଲା ଏବଂ ଯାହାଫଳରେ ସେ ବି ମରିଗଲା। ତେଣୁ ଏଠି ଯୋଉ ଟ୍ରମ୍ପ ପ୍ରଶାସନକୁ କିଭଳି ଭାବରେ non-violent ୱେରେ ସେମାନେ ଯୋଉ ସେଠିକାର ଯୋଉ ବ୍ଲାକ୍ ପିପଲ କ'ଣ କଲେ ନା ଡିମାଣ୍ଡ କଲେ ସେ ଯୋଉ ପୋଲିସ ଅଫିସର କେମିତି ସସ୍ପେଣ୍ଡ କରାଯାଉ ବା ଚାକିରି ବହିଷ୍କାର କରାଯାଉ। କିନ୍ତୁ ଏଠି ତ ସେମାନେ ସମ୍ମୁଖ ଯୁଦ୍ଧ କଲେ ଥ୍ରୋ non-violent they achieved the success. So there are so many elements of the Gandhian thought which are non-negotiable. Truth and non-violence, which are integrally connected, are to such elements. So anyway, now we will see, we will touch the social and ecological issues, which is important. It is also important. Social and ecological issue. So non-violent movement after Gandhi. Is the social and that ecological issues. Unit 4. There is this that କିଛି ମାନେ ସାମାଜିକ ଏବଂ କିଛି ଯୋଉ ରହିଛି ଏନଭାୟରମେଣ୍ଟାଲ that issues ସେଥିରେ ନନ୍ ଭାୟୋଲେଣ୍ଟ କିଭଳି ଭାବରେ ଯୋଉ କାର୍ଯ୍ୟ କରୁଛି the modern world marked as the social and ecological crisis that enveloping the individual social political and cultural lives of man the pursuit of materialism with all its emphasis on a growth and development has led neither to individual happiness nor to the social harmony and peace. Man lives in a state of inner contradictions and outer disconnections, being placed against man, society, and nature. The problem of poverty and hunger, unemployment, female particide, honor killing, racism, and inflation, etc., are assuming that staggering and proportions day by day. Threats of environmental pollution, depletion of scarce, जो कथा कहली कि सोशल इश्यू भितर आम आसो एगुड़िक जे हंगर अनएम्प्लॉयमेंट फीमेल पोर्टिसाइड honor killing, racism, and inflation. These are the social issues. And environmental issue bhitere asibo. On the particularly the environmental pollution, depletion of scarce natural resources, and deteriorating ecological balance loom wider than ever before. The world is today faced with the catastrophic situation. That it is clear now to everyone that the suicide of a civilization is in progress. ये कहवा कथा जो सामाजिक समस्या सहित जो भली भाव में परिवेश अधपतन घटुଛି कारण मनुष्य चाहूँ मो वस्तुवाद दुनिया रे किभली भाव में बंचित रही सो तार खुशी तार सौहार्द कौन कर नेचर को किभली भाव में से नेचर किभली भाव में से नष्ट कर भाव में इकोलॉजिकल बैलेंस रहना बायोडाइवर्सिटी ठीक भाव में रहना एवं जोटा कि मनुष्य गोटे सभ्यतार एमती गोटे आत्महत्या हाँवाई जाऊँगी प्रकार सिचुएशन सो सम फील दैट इफ द प्रेजेंट वे कंटिन्यूज यदि ये प्रकार चिंताधारा ये प्रकार परिवेश ये प्रकार सामाजिक अवस्थिति कंटिन्यू करे देयर मे बी नो वन टू राइट आवर दैट obituary. So particularly this topic, this unit, what it deals, that is some of these that are pressing social and ecological issues in the context of India. Social issues, the female particide is the burning issue in today, the Garbhapat. So particide and feticide is primarily a legal issue referring to illegal killing of the particularly fetus. In medical terminology, feticide means the termination of fetus. It might occur during the initial stage of legitimate induced abortion of a fetus of female gender as a result of a sex determination test. तेणु लिंग निरूपण करने किभली भाव में गर्भपात and it is a social issues. The female feticide is also referred to as a sex selective abortion, and the sex determination state are illegal in India. And abortion is legal and is allowed if the pregnancy does not exceed 12 weeks. Or exceeds 12 weeks, but does not exceed 20 weeks under the condition. That it includes the continuance of a pregnancy would involve a risk to the life of pregnant woman or grave injury to her physical or mental. ये कथा मध्य जानिकी जे मानसिक स्तर रे शारीरिक क्षेत्र रे जे गोटे प्रेग्नेंट वुमेन किभली भाव असुविधा पड़े ये कथा समस्त जानते तथापि जे some old people, the old that generation, they are demanding that we want that you son instead of the that girl. There is a substantial risk that if child were born, it would suffer from such a physical or mental abnormalities. एक कथा मध्य जानते जे जदि जे कौनसी that medicine यूज करा जाए during this period to abortion it ताहले जो पिला जदि किछि सेटा मिसथ्रेट हला काम कला नै तबे एटा abnormal पिलाटे मध्य जन्म तेनो so and that particularly the All India Institute of Medical Science, New Delhi, to detect the fetal abnormalities. These tests were later stopped by the Indian Council of Medical Research, ICMR, but their value had lagged out by then, 1979. You know, the medical terminology, the medical termination of a pregnancy act, this is because that amniocentesis test was claimed to be used for that cancer. ଏଠି ମୁଁ ସର୍ଟରେ କହିଦେବା ପାଇଁ ଚାହେଁ ଇଏ ହେଉଛି ଏଭଳି ଏକ ସାମାଜିକ ଯେଉଁ ଇସ୍ୟୁ ବା ଘଟଣା ଯେ female foeticide is also a crime and so many that are clinic and also the medical that signboard it is seen that the female foeticide is a crime. Any practice that will be put into the jail and the fine, all things. But what happened today? The unscrupulous doctors and also some practitioners, what they are doing? So they are telling those who wants to commit it, the abortion the particularly the gender detection prohibition but the doctor they are telling that. So I am giving that example. The unscrupulous doctors and patients have developed their own sex determination code language to circumvent the law. ଆଇନକୁ ଦେଖାତିରି କରିକି ତାଙ୍କର ଗୋଟେ ହଉଛି ସେ କୋଡ ବାହାର କରିଛନ୍ତି କଣ ନା ଯଦି ମାନେ ଝିଅ ହେଇଛି ତାହେଲେ ଯଦି ଲିଙ୍ଗ ନିରୂପଣ କରାହେଲା ଯଦି ଝିଅ ହବାର ଅଛି ତାହେଲେ ତାକୁ କହିବେ ତମେ ଆସ ସଣ୍ଡେ ଯଦି ପୁଅ ହବାର ଥିବ ତାହେଲେ କହିବ ମଣ୍ଡେ ଆସ ରିପୋର୍ଟ ହେବ. So this is the difference and the doctors they are putting their signature in the greening means that is the gender that the son और जो the red ink रे लिख देले जे रिपोर्ट सेटा होची कोन जो लिंग निरूपण रेटा कन्या भ्रूण तो आरंभ होला सेटू जे कन्या भ्रूण होता. So for instance if a doctor says collect the report on Monday the family is meant to that infer that the unborn child is a boy and Friday connotes the girl child. So this was similarly honor killing is another social that honor that means that killing is done for the honor. Sometimes the um, the people or the family members, they force to murder particular its children. That means the an honor killing is the murder of a family or a clan members, where the murderers believe the victim to have brought dishonor upon the family, clan or community. ଆମ ବଂଶ ଆମ ପରିବାର ଆମ ସମୁଦାୟ ପାଇଁ ଯେ ମାନେ ଅସମ୍ମାନିତ କଲା ସେ ସମ୍ମାନ ପାଇଁ ତାକୁ ମାରି ଦିଆଯାଏ। This perceived dishonor is normally the result utilizing dress codes unacceptable to the family or engaging in certain sexual acts. These killings result from the perception that defense of honor justifies killing a person whose behavior dishonor their clan or family. ତାଙ୍କ ବଂଶ ତାଙ୍କ ଫ୍ୟାମିଲିକୁ ଅସମ୍ମାନିତ କଲା। ତେଣୁକରି ଆମେ ଦେଖିଛୁ ବିଭିନ୍ନ ଘଟଣା ବର୍ତ୍ତମାନ ଘଟୁଛି ଯେ ପିଲାଟି ଯଦି ଯେ ଗୋଟେ କୌଣସି ସେକ୍ସୁଆଲ ଇଏରେ ଅନଫେୟାର ମିନ୍ସ ଏଡପ୍ଟ ଅଛି, ତେଣୁ ଫ୍ୟାମିଲି ମେମ୍ବର କିଏ ଦେଖିଦେଲେ, ତେଣୁକରି ପରିବାରର ସମ୍ମାନ ପାଇଁ ତାଙ୍କୁ ନେଇକି ବାହାରେ ମାରିଦେଇ କୋଉଠି ପୋତି ଦେଉଛନ୍ତି ଏବଂ ପରବର୍ତ୍ତୀ ପର୍ଯ୍ୟାୟରେ ଯେକୌଣସି ପ୍ରକାର ସେ ଘଟଣା ଆସୁଛି ଲୋକଲୋଚନ। ଇଏ ହେଉଛି ଗୋଟେ ସାମାଜିକ ଯୋଉ ଘଟଣା। Then plight of women victims of NRI marriage, ସେଠି ମଧ୍ୟ ଯେ ଗୋଟେ ନନ୍ ରେସିଡେଣ୍ଟ ଇଣ୍ଡିଆନକୁ କିଏ ମ୍ୟାରେଜ କଲା। The search for a resource for a better life has been the human endeavor throughout history, and man has always been moving out in search of a livelihood or a better perspective. ଭଲରେ ରହିବ। ତେଣୁ the migration to foreign countries is nothing new for the Punjabis who began migrating to the foreign countries since the late 19th century. While some of them migrated to North America and the South Asian countries, many were in the forefront of the struggle to liberate India from British imperialism and took an active part in the national liberation movement, suffering innumerable hardship. And in the past, the changing socio-economic condition of Punjab forced many of its inhabitants to go out to foreign lands because agriculture, the peasants, traditional base did not remain economically viable. Punjab had more than 65.5% people living in the rural areas, depending directly or indirectly on the agriculture. This forced the Punjabis to go abroad for better life. But in the course of time, it became a craze to go abroad, and thus began the exploitation of many social ties under the influence of a money-minded culture. ତେଣୁ ପଇସା ପାଇଁ ସେ କ'ଣ କରୁଛନ୍ତି, ବିକ୍ରି କରିଦିଅନ୍ତି, ସେ ଚାଲିଯାଏ ଏବଂ ବେଟର ଲାଇଭଲିହୁଡ୍ ପାଇଁ ସେ କ'ଣ ସେଠି ଫସିଯାଏ, ତାକୁ ଏକ୍ସପ୍ଲୋଏଟ୍ କରାଯାଏ। Today, this badly affects the social relations in Punjab. ବର୍ତ୍ତମାନ ଏଇଟା ଗୋଟେ ଏକ ମନ୍ଦ ପରମ୍ପରା ହେଉଛି ସୃଷ୍ଟି କରିଛି ପଞ୍ଜାବ। ତେଣୁ so there are hundreds of such instances in which the teenage girls were married to NRI groups, many of whom were of their father's race. ଅନେକ ଗୁଡ଼ିଏ ଅଛନ୍ତି ବର୍ତ୍ତମାନ ଏନ୍ଆର୍ଆଇ କି ବାହାଉଛନ୍ତି ଯେ ବୁଢ଼ା ଗୁଡ଼ାକ ମାନେ ବାପା ବୟସର, ତେଣୁ ସେଠି ମଧ୍ୟ କାରଣ ପଇସା ଲୋଭରେ ଖାଲି ମ୍ୟାରେଜ କରିଦିଅନ୍ତି, କୋଉଠି ମଧ୍ୟ ବାପା ମଧ୍ୟ ବିକ୍ରି କରିଦେଉଛି ମାନେ ଏନ୍ଆର୍ଆଇ। ଏବଂ ବର୍ତ୍ତମାନ ଗୋଟେ ଟ୍ରେଣ୍ଡ ହେଇଛି ଯେ ରାଜସ୍ଥାନର ଯେହେତୁ ଫିମେଲ ସଂଖ୍ୟା କମ୍, ସେଠି ଓଡ଼ିଶାର ଯୋଉ ଝିଅମାନଙ୍କୁ କ'ଣ କରାହଉଛି ନା ରାଜସ୍ଥାନକୁ ମଧ୍ୟ ଚାଲାଣ କରାହଉଛି କ'ଣ ନା ସେଠି ସେ ମ୍ୟାରେଜ ପାଇଁ। ତେଣୁ ସେଠି ଯିଏ ଦଲାଲ ମିଡିଲ ମ୍ୟାନ୍, ତେଣୁ ସେ ସେଠି ପଇସା ହେଉଛି ନେଇକି କରୁଛି। ସୋ ଇଏ ଗୋଟେ ହେଉଛି ସୋସିଆଲ ଇସ୍ୟୁ। So So these are the decision of the Ministry of Overseas Affairs to appoint the volunteers in the countries with the high density of NRIs and PIOs to carry out the check of the groups abroad has remained that superficial. ଆମେ ଦେଖିଛନ୍ତି ଯୋଉ ନ୍ୟୁଜ୍ ପେପରରେ ବଡ଼ ବଡ଼ ଅକ୍ଷରରେ ବାହାରିଥିବ ଆଜି ଭୁବନେଶ୍ୱର ରେଲୱେ ଷ୍ଟେସନରେ ଯୋଉ ଚାଲାଣ ହେଉଥିବା ଯେ ମାଇନର ଏଜର ଯୋଉ ଛୁଆମାନଙ୍କୁ ପୋଲିସ ଜବତ କରୁଛି। So this is happening. ତେଣୁ ୟାକୁ କିଭଳି ଭାବରେ ଦମନ କରାଯାଇପାରିବ ଏଇ ଯୋଉ ସୋସିଆଲ ଇସ୍ୟୁ the government needs to ensure that a comprehensive regulation that enables protection accorded by the law to the Indian women with regard to marriage, divorce, maintenance, inheritance, and custody of children should also apply to victims of fraudulent and violence. That will be done for it. ये होची केला सोशल इश्यू इकोलॉजिकल इश्यू तो वर्तमान the peoples are people in the both urban and also rural area they want the sophisticated life the materialistic life. The ecological problems are becoming more and more public and this is the reason why ecology has become a much general term despite its originally scientific character. Modern ecology is generally conducted with the Charles Darwin and his theory of evolution and natural selection where the pointed a firm connection between the animals and their natural habitat. But why this ecological issues has become an important issue. To understand ecology, we need to think in terms of the healthy To understand ecology, we need to think in terms of the healthy interplay of man and his total environment. What are the limits, quantitative and the qualitative, within which we can interfere with an inherited natural environment without dire consequences? How far can these set limits eventually be stretched? Given more knowledge and understanding and more time. What are the penalties of overtaking them as we have and will? And how can these be mitigated and injuries checked? Between pressure of human population and the carrying capacity of the earth. How far can practice of the needless exploitation and the economy and technology move towards तो वर्तमान जो planet of Earth से माने overburden से जितने की कैसे बाग वर्तमान नहीं पर youth में different type of ecological issues. Global warming, greenhouse effect, ozone layer depletion. So these are the particularly ecological issues. The main basis of the ecology in environment and the related components are plants, animals, peoples, and institutions. There is ecological balance when all the components harmonize with each other and nothing occurs that is detrimental to one or more components. ତେଣୁ ପ୍ରତ୍ୟେକ ଉଭୟ ଉଭୟଙ୍କ ଉପରେ ନିର୍ଭରଶୀଳ। ତେଣୁ ଇକୋଲୋଜିକାଲ କ୍ରାଇସିସ୍ occur when this equilibrium ଏଇ ଯୋଉ ସମତା ଏଇ ଯୋଉ ଆମର ପରିବେଶ ସନ୍ତୁଳନ ଯେତେବେଳେ ଡିଷ୍ଟର୍ବ ହୋଇଥାଏ ନେଚରରେ କାହା ଦ୍ୱାରା ନା ମଣିଷ ସେତେବେଳେ ଆମେ ଅସୁବିଧା ଅନୁଭବ କରୁ। So the environment is the whole system of biosphere that consisting of both biotic and abiotic components interacting with each other and involved in a series of cyclic balance. In this system, Land, water, plants, animals, worms, and humans are linked by complicated web of interconnections and interdependence. ଉଭୟ ଆନ୍ତଃ ପ୍ରକ୍ରିୟା ଏବଂ ଗୋଟେ ଆନ୍ତଃ ସଂଯୋଗରେ କିଛି ଅଛନ୍ତି ଉଭୟ ଉଭୟଙ୍କ ଉପରେ ନିର୍ଭର କରି so much so that entire world and all living system within it can be looked as one living organism. तो ସବୁ ଗୋଟିଏ organism ଗୋଟିଏ ଏମିତି ଗୋଟିଏ ଘର ଯୋଉଥିରେ ସମସ୍ତ ଲୋକ ସବୁ ଅଛନ୍ତି এইভাবে ভাবে আমি ঠিক করি তাহলে প্রবলেম সমস্যা না that there are so many issues. The air pollution. The air is the one of the most important constituent and constituent of the environment. It is calculated that the man breathes about 22,000 times a day, inhaling about 16 kg of air by weight. Therefore, clean and pure air is necessary for the survival and good health. But due to the air pollution, our health and survival have been endangered. It is number one. Next, the airborne leak. The story of airborne leak well establishes the connection between industrialization and air pollution. Scientists estimate the amount of lead in the world's air by taking 4 samples of this ice in the Greenland ice cap. The beginning of industrial revolution around 1750, the amount of lead in the air was low. There was a major increase after 1750 and a massive increase after the Second World War when the use of lead, gasoline, rose high. ତେଣୁ ଇଣ୍ଡଷ୍ଟ୍ରିରୁ ଯେତେବେଳେ ବାହାରିଲା ଏବଂ it is related to the that it is another industrial and air pollution. Then depletion of ozone layer. ओजोन स्तर जो क्षति होची ह्रास होची सेतरे केमिति छिद्र होची डिप्लीशन ऑफ ओजोन लेयर द ओजोन लेयर इन द एटमॉस्फेयर प्रोटेक्ट्स द अर्थ फ्रॉम हार्मफुल अल्ट्रावायलेट रेज फ्रॉम द सन सूर्य रश्मि सूर्य को ठारो आसुथिबा अतिबाइगण रश्मि को होची प्रोटेक्ट दिए कि ओजोन लेयर that layer is now being reduced by that particularly fluorocarbons CFC used as a that propellant in aerosol spray cans as a fluid in refrigerators and air conditions and for other industrial purposes as exhaust gas from supersonic transport plants. आमे वर्तमान एते माने चाहूचु एते सोफिस्टिकेटेड होवा पई चाहूचु आगर एसी गुटे हमर दरकार छुटिया घर ठन पन एसी गुटे दरकार रिफ्रिजरेटर दरकार किंतु ताको ठीक भाबरे आमे व्यवहार करू ओजोन may also be destroyed by gases which are released when nitrogen fertilizer is extensively used and when nuclear bomb are exploded. तो आमे ऑर्गेनिक वे चाष करू सेठी एवं German scientists were the first to notice ozone holes in the that Antarctica atmosphere. Next, the British. So it is the another better issue. Then the greenhouse effect. सबुज गृहर प्रभाव कौन? The release of carbon dioxide into the atmosphere from the burning of fossil fuels, coals, oil, and also natural gas causes the warming of the earth climate. कितने गाड़ी साइकिल के या चलिया पे करो टिके खाली एटी बाजार में गले दरकार है या छड़ा तो प्रत्येक क्षेत्र the scientists agree that the particularly carbon dioxide, has increased significantly since the Industrial Revolution by about 15 to 25% between 1800 and in 1980. This increase will cause that warming of the earth surface, the greenhouse effect, since the carbon dioxide in the atmosphere allows sunlight to reach the earth, but the traps some of the earth heat, preventing it from that radiating back into the space. तामाने जो से जो कार्बन डाइऑक्साइड जो से पूरा जाई करने तब ऊपरे जो रहुची पहला रहुची जो हमर जो फसिल फ्यूल से फ्यूल ऑयल नेचुरल ये जो एते परिमाण से जो गैस से भर्ती ही कि सब होई छी जाकर कौन होची यहाँ उद्योग को नदी का फल रे जो सूर्य जो रश्मि आसुची एवं हमर जो ओजोन लेयर जो डिप्लेशन होची तादर कौन अधिक हमको जो माने गरम अनुभूत होची It is estimated that the doubling of the CO2 level would lead to an average global warming of about 5 degree Fahrenheit. So this is another problem that issues the ecological. Then water pollution. Water pollution is the another that issue. Water like air is an indispensable and the precious natural resources on this planet. But due to industrialization, urbanization, and other development related activities, resources of the water have become highly polluted. Development has tended to turn clean water into dirty water, as it is has turned fresh air into dirty air. ସେମିତି ଭଲ जो वायु दूषित हो जाଉଛି ସେଭଳି ଭଲ ଜଳ ମଧ୍ୟ ଦୂଷିତ ହେଉଛି. Water pollution of river take place from the that sewage produced by the cities and waste released by the factory ରୁ ଯାଉଛି ନାଳ ନର୍ଦ୍ଦମା ପାଣି ଯାଉଛି ସବୁ water କୁ pollution କରୁଛି. During floods and also heavy rains, huge amount of polluted water passes into the rivers and lakes, and huge amount of water drain laden with the pesticides and excess fertilizers. They are also polluted the water. So next, the lack of fresh water. Water is renewable, but the finite resources. We are now using about the half of the fresh water available on the planet. Many nations now have water shortages that are threatening the health and economy of these nations. Besides, depletion of that wetlands, millions of species of plants, animals, and other organisms enrich our environment. Awareness of the importance of this biological diversity has grown in recent years, along with the concept that more effective action indeed. But there is a urgency because the destruction of ecosystem and species that extinction entails irreversible losses. Ecological degradation of wetlands together with the pollution has resulted in the loss of the high amount of fertilizers and other input requirement in agriculture for increasing the productivity led to degradation of the environment. So this is the another issue. Next, the land pollution, ocean pollution and land pollution. Ocean pollution also accordingly that a large scale of the world's ocean and the seas are being affected by plastic nets and bags that kills seabirds and also turtles. The oil leakages from the tanks also harm sea birds and ଆମେ ପ୍ରତ୍ୟେକ ଥର ଶୁଣୁଛନ୍ତି ଯେ ଗୋଟେ ଗୋଟେ ଜାହାଜ ବୁଡ଼ି ଯାଉଛି ଏବଂ ସେଥିରେ ଥିବା ଯେଉଁ ତେଲ ବାହାରକୁ କେଉଁ ଭାବରେ ପ୍ରଯୁକ୍ତ କରୁଛି Land pollution, whenever development takes place, its effect on the land has had been विकास होची सही परिमाण रे मृत्तिका मध्य कोइ भागे जेटुस polluted होची. The natural resources from the land are required for the production of goods and services, and their extraction disturbs the land. But even more widespread challenge to let's say that, but even more widespread are the changes to the land, which come to the disposal of the goods after they are no longer of use and of the waste. ତାଙ୍କର ସର୍ବପ୍ରଥମ ହେଉଛି ପ୍ଲାଷ୍ଟିକ. ପ୍ଲାଷ୍ଟିକ ଡିଗ୍ରେଡେଡ୍ ହେବ ନାହିଁ, ତେଣୁକରି ଆମେ ପ୍ରତ୍ୟେକ ଦିନ ମାନେ କ୍ଷୀର ଆଣିବାକୁ ଆରମ୍ଭ କରିକି ଯାବତୀୟ ଜିନିଷ ଆଣିଛନ୍ତି ଭେରି କମୋଡିଟି ଆମେ ତ ନେଇକି ଯିବା ନାହିଁ, ବ୍ୟାଗ୍ ଆଉ ନେଇକି ଯିବା କେବଳ ଖାଲି ପଲିଥିନ୍ର ସବୁ ଏବଂ ଗୋଟିଏ ପଲିଥିନ୍ ବ୍ୟବହାର ହେଲେ ହେବନି ଏବଂ ପ୍ରତ୍ୟେକ ଦିନ ଆମର ଦରକାର. ତେଣୁ ଦିସ୍ ୱେଷ୍ଟ ଆଫେକ୍ଟ ଦ ହେଲ୍ଥ ଅଫ୍ ଦ ପିପଲ୍ who come into contact with them. Then plastic that the plastic industry is jumping on this green that bandwagon with a new line of environmentally safe products. In reality, these products are neutral of the environment. They are not plastic degradable. So, deforestation and also desertification. Deforestation, ଗଛକୁ କାଟିବା ଏବଂ ଯୋଉଥିପାଇଁ କି ମରୁଭୂମି ସୃଷ୍ଟି ହେଉଛି ଇଏ ମଧ୍ୟ ଗୋଟେ କାରଣ. ତେଣୁ deforestation is a serious problem because it leads desertification is a serious problem because it leads to erosion of the land, can cause the soil to harden, and can lead significant changes in the climate. These changes usually mean that sometimes deforestation leads to too much water in the wrong place. Now severe floods are occurring in our country, never witnessed before. You know, the deforestation ହେଲା ପରେ କ'ଣ unnatural rainfall ହେଉଛି ଯୋଉ ସମୟ ହେବା କଥା ହଉନି. ତେଣୁ it is affecting the agricultural production in due time. Next, another ecological problem is noise pollution and electronic pollution. Due to auto horn and the noise from the loudspeaker, blood pressure and also heart rate rise. Even it has become a mania. It is a disease. Without DJ, the procession will not be started. See, Bhosani who, Bahaghar who, DJ. So, with the high sound loudspeaker, the blood pressure and the heart that this rise. This noise pollution that impairs our neurons also. Radiation from TV, VCR, mobiles, and other electronic gadgets not only affect the atmosphere and mind, but also the health of the mankind. So, ये भी मध्यम issue. Then thermonuclear pollution. The greatest pollution today is the radioactive fallout from nuclear testing or from the storage and the disposal of the nuclear waste. ଯେତେବେଳେ ଆଣବିକ ବିକିରଣ ସେ ମଧ୍ୟ ଆମ ପାଇଁ ବିପଦ ସୃଷ୍ଟି କରୁଛି, ଇକୋଲୋଜିକାଲ ପ୍ରୋବ୍ଲେମ ସୃଷ୍ଟି କରୁଛି. Hydrogen bomb was tested by the United States in the specific area. It caused widespread radiation sickness among a large number of Japanese fishermen and about 80% of the children on the island of the developed thyroid group of that intractable nature. And as the test continued, the Chinese and the French still conducting them in atmosphere. Underground nuclear explosion by India and Pakistan and an increasing number of children that born in the test areas, according to the noted British marine biologist that earthwood born are likely to die of cancer. ये भी मध्यम चुका है. The testing of atomic weapons and the continue to develop of nuclear power even for a peaceful uses are on a global scale. Man-made radioactivity. Apart from this, the selective destruction of atomic weapons and also the nuclear waste disposal was a better. So these are the equal, the ecological issues which threaten the human life as well as the environment. So there is no other avenue but explore his goals and the values as much as he seeks the world to change. An unending commitment would ensure that man will survive without falling into a state of worthless existence. More and more people all over the world should look for the ways to redirect ecological system as it people matter. So in this way, we ended that ecological, social ecological issue and how it is also creating harm to the society and how can we solve it. In the last but not the least item that dear learners, I will take some that 10 to 15 minutes only. So please bear it. Bhudan movement. So it is the social movement. Throughout the late 40s and the early 50s, Acharya that Sonu, throughout the late 40s, early 50s, Acharya Vinoba Bhave had been noticed the breakdown of India's economy, the perilous state of the country, the agricultural and the inhuman and appalling poverty of the landless millions. नियुत जो भूमिहीन मानकर समस्या को जो दारिद्रता को प्रभावित 50% of the agricultural labor households were landless in 1950 to 1, and their number was increased to 57% in 1956 to 50. So, Vinoba Bhave noticed how the agrarian legislation, particularly the land distribution and the land ceiling laws passed by the various state governments, helped to achieve the desired results. The big landowners knew how to escape the mischief of the law. ତେଣୁ ଯେତେବେଳେ ସିଲିଂ କରାଗଲା ଯାହା ପାଖରେ ଅଧିକ ଜମି ଅଛି ସରକାର ସେମାନଙ୍କୁ ଆଣି ଯୋଉ ଲ୍ୟାଣ୍ଡଲେସ୍ ମାନଙ୍କୁ ଦେବେ ଏହା ହେଉଛି ଯୋଉ ବିନୋବା ମହାପାତ୍ରଙ୍କର ଯୋଉ ଇଚ୍ଛା ଯେ ଭୂ ଦାନ ତାକୁ ହେଉଛି କରାଯାଇଥିଲା କିନ୍ତୁ ଯୋଉମାନେ ବିଗ୍ ଲ୍ୟାଣ୍ଡ ଓନର୍ସ knew to escape the mischief of the law and traditional land customers were powerful and the ignorance of the peasant was widespread enough to make the laws ineffective. The feasibility of legislation is a measure of agrarian reform remains deep. So it is with the aim of evolving the change in the moral and the spiritual hierarchy horizons of man through large scale and extensive social realization of the socio-economic values of human existence that Vinoba Bhave had marshaled the that religious movement of Buddha. So it was then that the idea of Bhudan came to Vinoba. It is that revelation during his Telangana tour in 1951 that so Mohapatra. And India's economic life could not be reorganized unless the basic land problem was solved. So land problem, then 50% of landless the laborers And they are exploited by the uh, landlords. So, Indian, it is true that Bhutan had its immediate origin in the solution to the problem of securing land for India's landless peasants. But it would be wrong to suppose that Bhutan concerns itself solely with the collection and distribution of lands. ତେଣୁ, as one may subsequently see, this movement was meant to be the first step in the onward march of the Sarvodaya society, purported to be an all-round revolution in the socio-economic sphere, a non-violent constructive program of transformation of India's social structure through radical change in values. So this is the very idea of Vinodha. So how the 50% of the Indian that landless farmers, so they will get land, and how this problem will be solved. And how the tillers, the tiller and the landless will get the opportunity. The Bhutan movement is more near a mercy mission started by Vinova on behalf of the landless. Vinova exerts the privilege to part with a portion of what they have in the favor of those that have not. As land is the basic factor and the source of production in this country, a solution of the problem of ownership of land by those who till till it must be that settled in the interest of real democracy. ତେଣୁ ଗଣତନ୍ତ୍ରରେ ଯୋଉ ପ୍ରକୃତରେ ଯିଏ ଚାଷ କରୁଛି, ତେଣୁ ସିଏ କିଭଳି ଭାବରେ ହଉଛି ସୁଯୋଗ ପାଇବା ଦରକାର, ସିଏ କିଭଳି ମୁକ୍ତି ପାଇବା ଦରକାର, ସିଏ କେମିତି ତାର ଓନରସିପ୍ ପାଇବା ଦରକାର, ହଉଛି ସର୍ବୋଦୟ ଏମ୍ସ ଟୁ ଏଷ୍ଟାବ୍ଲିଶ। ତେଣୁ ସର୍ବୋଦୟ ଚିନ୍ତାଧାରାରେ ଅନୁପ୍ରାଣିତ ହୋଇ ବିନୋବା ଭାବେ ଏ ଯୋଉ ଭୂଦାନ ମୁଭମେଣ୍ଟ ଆରମ୍ଭ କରିଥିଲେ ଏବଂ ଭୂଦାନ is a step in the direction of the attainment of a real democracy, as it is a call to the landowners to recognize their real interest and try to protect it by conceding the landless their due rights. That means the Bhutan, the Dan does not mean the charity. It really implies equal distribution. What Vinodha said. So the movement may be looked as a concrete manifestation of the application of the universal principle of love, truth, non-violence to Indian practical problem. The ideological basis of the movement, the philosophy which asserts that whatever people have is a trust would be held and used to as such, whether it is land or any other kind of a property, or whether it is knowledge, skill, and experience. It is a trust that people hold for their fellow human beings and for the whole community. It is not meant for their personal enjoyment alone. Everyone is a share in it. It is by propagating this philosophy of love and truth, and by persuading people to regard themselves and live as one family and as aimed at bringing about a non-violent agrarian revolution, the movement which is called Bhutan. So, Bhutan movement thus aims to prepare the groundwork for an agrarian movement. तो कृषि भित्तिक जो आर्थिक विकास केମିତି ଭାବରେ ହୋଇପାରିବ, where land that ceases to be that marketable commodity, where the individual work to attain the good of the entire community. This is just one step towards the realization of the real democracy of this world, setting right the inverted structure of economic centralization, the practice based on the principle of time and non-violence, and also the decentralization of political and economic power. ତେଣୁ ବିନୋବା ଭାବେଙ୍କର ଏଇ ଯୋଉ ନନ୍ ଭାୟୋଲେଣ୍ଟ ଯୋଉ ୱେ ଯୋଉ ଭୂଦାନ ଆଉ ଗ୍ରାମଦାନ so that Bhudan literally the land gift aims at the social reform. So individual acts of charity, Gramdan literally the village gift tries to accompany the social revolution, the collective commitment. Each Gramdan এবং जो ভূদান সেটাକୁ जो ବିନୋବା ଭାବେ କିଭଳି ଭାବରେ जो ନନ୍ ଭାୟୋଲେଣ୍ଟ ୱେରେ ସେ ସମାଧାନ କରିବା ପାଇଁ ଚାହିଁଥିଲେ ଯେ ଗ୍ରାମାଞ୍ଚଳରେ ଗରିବ ଚାଷୀ ଯେଉଁମାନଙ୍କର ଜମି ନାହିଁ ଯେଉଁମାନେ ଭୂମିହୀନ ଚାଷୀ ସେମାନଙ୍କର ସ୍ୱାର୍ଥ କେମିତି ସୁରକ୍ଷା ହେବ ଏବଂ ସମସ୍ତେ କିଭଳି ଭାବେ ଜମିର ମାଲିକ ହୋଇପାରିବେ ଏବଂ ଚଷି ପାରିବେ ସେଥିପାଇଁ ସେ ଗ୍ରେଟ୍ efforts have been taken ଏବଂ ସେଥିପାଇଁ ଦାନ ଗିଫ୍ଟ ଶ୍ରମଦାନ ସମ୍ପତ୍ତି ଦାନ ଭୂଦାନ ଜୀବଦାନ ଏସବୁ ଦାନ ଭିତରେ ଯାଏ କିନ୍ତୁ ଯେ particularly the ଭୂଦାନ movement it was meant to that stable the landless tiller. The target achieved. The target for land gift was set at 50 million areas, which was to be achieved by the end in 1957. So, with this, we will conclude. In the post-independent India, when nation was going through reconstruction, Bhudan came as a glimmer of hope to the landless poor and needy aspiring to live a decent life free from oppressive land policies and landlords. ତେଣୁ ଯୋଉ ବିନୋବା ଭାବେଙ୍କର ଯୋଉ ଏଇ ଯୋଉ ଚେଷ୍ଟା ଗରିବ ଯୋଉ ଲ୍ୟାଣ୍ଡଲେସ୍ ଭୂମିହୀନ ମାନଙ୍କୁ କିଭଳି ଭାବରେ ଏକ ମର୍ଯ୍ୟାଦା ଦେଇଥିଲା so thoroughly rooted in the Gandhian spirit it aimed at the ultimate good of the society. Gandhiଙ୍କର ସର୍ବୋଦୟ ଚିନ୍ତାଧାରା that upliftment of all these ideas but lost momentum due to lack of spirited persuasion and follow. It was one major effort that would be remembered forever in history that Gandhian principle were conceived and followed to some extent. ତେଣୁ ଏହା ନିଶ୍ଚିତ ଭାବରେ ଆମ ସମସ୍ତଙ୍କର ମନ ରହିବ ଏବଂ ଇତିହାସରେ ଏହା ହେଉଛି ଏକ ଚିରଦିନ ସ୍ମୃତି ହେଇକି ରହିବ ଯେ ଏ ପ୍ରିନ୍ସିପଲ ଗାନ୍ଧିଆନ ପ୍ରିନ୍ସିପଲ ନନ୍ ଭାୟୋଲେଣ୍ଟ ପ୍ରିନ୍ସିପଲ ମାଧ୍ୟମରେ କିଭଳି ଭାବରେ ଭାରତୀୟ ଯେଉଁ ଭୂମିହୀନ ଚାଷୀମାନଙ୍କୁ ଉଦ୍ଧାର କରାଯାଇଥିଲା ଏବଂ ତାଙ୍କର ନ୍ୟାଯ୍ୟ ଦାବିକୁ ଯେଉଁ ଦିଆଯାଇ ପାରିଥିଲା. Though we may not witness such movement again, it still endows us with the hope that a true non-violent movement will be worked out with absolute determination and so thank you all learners. So I took happen our that mood as the class and started. Sir.
Yes, sir.
ତେଣୁ ଯେହେତୁ ଟିକେ ଲେଟ୍ରେ ଆରମ୍ଭ କରିଥିଲି ମୁଁ ଏଇଟାକୁ ଟିକେ ଯୋଉ ଆମର ୟୁନିଟ୍ 5 ଆମର ଭୂଦାନ ମୁଭମେଣ୍ଟକୁ ଟିକେ ଟଚ୍ କଲି. Most of the students they have left. So
anyway, thank you very much.
So and, just I tried to that touch all the units. So that is why I